I'm seated in a Subaru Forester SG5, manufactured in 2005. At first glance, it's just another second-hand Japanese car, one of the hundreds of thousands that roam African roads. But hidden in this car are several clues, even reasons, why no African country has ever manufactured a car from scratch. None. Let's unpack those reasons, those clues. Let's start with the basics. The engine built in Japan, the transmission Japanese, even the screws, dashboards, electronics, the chassis, welding, all made abroad in Japan. Now, here's the twist. Despite having raw materials needed to make cars, steel in South Africa, rubber in Nigeria, cobalt in Congo, we still import almost every part. Why? Because we have been locked in a cycle of importation over industrialization. The car that I'm sitting in costs less than $7,000 in the used market. It's reliable, fuel efficient, and ready to drive off the ship. Now, compare that to trying to manufacture a car from scratch in Africa. It would cost up to 10 times more in the early stages. To build an ecosystem, you would face resistance from the global supply chains. And so the millions of second-hand cars across Africa are symptoms of an economic condition that we haven't cured for decades. Let's rewind and ask the question, has Africa ever made a truly local car? Has Africa ever built its own car? The dream of an African-made car isn't new. In fact, it's been pursued for decades, but almost always ends halfway. Let's start with Nigeria's innovation. Marketed as Africa's first car manufacturer, it assembles vehicles in Anambra by the engine blocks, gear systems, axles imported from China. In Ghana, this company blends creativity with spirituality, fusing electronics into bold vehicle bodies. But guess what? The core components still come from abroad. Even Morocco, with one of the most advanced automotive sectors in Africa, has Renault and Peugeot factories, but the design blueprints all from abroad. French-owned, many of them. In Kenya, Mobius Motors, a homegrown car manufacturer, has recently shut down after 13 years of operations, entering voluntary liquidation due to escalating debts and an ongoing tax dispute with the Kenya government, with the Kenya Revenue Authority. Instead of fostering the growth of local manufacturing, the government's tax policies and bureaucratic challenges created a hostile environment for the company. Most African governments continue to frustrate rather than enable the local manufacturing of vehicles. Autoparks, an emerging electric vehicle manufacturer in Kenya, is facing similar headwinds. Despite its potential to position Kenya at the forefront of Africa's green automotive future, the company is struggling to scale in an environment that remains largely indifferent to local innovation. If Africa is serious about building its own automotive industry, governments and investors must step up to support pioneering firms like Autoparks. Without proactive backing, the continent will remain a dumping ground for used cars, instead of becoming a hub for cutting-edge vehicle manufacturing. So, has any African country ever made a car from the ground up? No, not yet. Nowhere in Africa do we have full manufacturing from A to Z. Full manufacturing involves producing all major vehicle components, such as the engine, the chassis, the body, transmission, and electronics, locally, using domestic raw materials, tooling, and labor. It reflects a country's complete industrial capacity to build cars from scratch. In contrast, completely knocked down and semi-knocked down assembly involve importing pre-manufactured parts or nearly complete vehicles from abroad and simply assembling them locally. While CKD and SKD processes create some jobs and reduce shipping costs, they do little to build a nation's true manufacturing base or technological self-reliance. Why does it matter that there doesn't exist any car that can truly claim to be fully made in Africa? Because without owning the means of production, Africa remains a market, not a manufacturer. We buy, we don't build, then sell. It's not just about national pride. It's about jobs, technology, and sovereignty. Let's see what this has cost us over the past 30 years. Let's talk numbers. And they are staggering. Between 1995 and 2024, Africa spent more than $450 billion importing vehicles. That's nearly $500 billion gone to foreign factories. In 2019 alone, African vehicle imports totaled $48 billion. That's more than some countries' entire GDPs. And who's making the money? Japan, over $170 billion earned from selling vehicles to Africa. Germany, at least $60 billion made. China, over $30 billion made, mostly in just the last couple of years. Every dollar spent buying foreign cars is a dollar not spent building local factories. Every imported car on African roads is a job lost in Lagos, Addis Ababa, or Kigali. We are not just importing cars, we are importing dependency. So now the question is, what would it actually take to flip this model? Let's get into the nuts and bolts. Building a complete car from scratch is one of the most complex industrial feats in modern economics. But it's possible, it's doable, it's being done. So let's break it down. You need at least $1 billion to $3 billion. Design the engine, manufacturing, assembly plants, R&D labs, all that. You must have steel production for frameworks, in petrochemical industry for plastics, precision engineering for engines and brakes, semiconductor plants for electronics and sensors. Africa has some of these, but not all in one place and not at scale. You need engineers, mechanics, data scientists, designers, software developers, and more. In 2021, Africa had only 79 engineers, 1 million people. Compare that to Germany's 3,900 per 1 million people. But having said that, across Africa, thousands of qualified young engineers, mechanical, electrical, automotive, and beyond, are jobless or underemployed despite their technical skills. For instance, a 2023 African Development Bank report revealed that over 60% of engineering graduates in sub-Saharan Africa struggle to find work within 2 years of graduation. In Kenya alone, the Engineers Board of Kenya estimates that only about 7,000 of the country's 20,000 engineering graduates are formally employed in engineering roles. This disconnect between talent and opportunity is not due to lack of skills, but a lack of industries like automotive manufacturing that can absorb and utilize this growing pool of technical expertise on the continent. Now, let's talk about institutional backbone. No car industry can thrive without protective tariffs like Japan had in the 60s, subsidies and tax holidays for local parts makers. No single African country can do it alone. But together, Nigeria brings rubber, Congo brings cobalt and lithium. South Africa has assembly plants, Each and every one of those car parts would come from an African country that has the core competency of producing them. This cannot be done in isolation. We must look at the big picture. We must do this through a Pan-African effort. But where will the money come from? You may be asking. Where will Africa get all those billions of dollars needed to kickstart this industry? Well, Africa loses an estimated $5 billion annually through illicit financial flows, driven largely by corruption, tax evasion, and shady deals involving the continent's ruling elite. Kenya's immediate former president, Uhuru Kenyatta, once revealed that every single day Kenya loses $15 million through corruption. That means that if Kenya loses $15 million per day to corruption, then in a month, this African country loses $450 million. And in a year, it loses $5.5 billion. A similar scenario plays out across the continent. These staggering figures are more than enough to finance a vibrant, homegrown automotive industry across multiple African countries. Yet instead of channeling public resources into transformative sectors like vehicle manufacturing, corrupt leaders are siphoning funds into offshore accounts and luxury consumption. Africa doesn't lack capital. It lacks accountable transformative leadership committed to investing in industries that can generate jobs, build local capacity, and reduce dependency on foreign imports. This isn't just about cars. It's about sovereignty. The ability to produce your own vehicles means controlling your transport systems, building defense capabilities, driving your economy forward, literally and figuratively. A fully African-made car would create hundreds of thousands of decent, well-paying jobs across the continent. It would spawn and support industries and keep billions circulating within Africa. And it's possible. We did it with mobile money, think M-Pesa. We're doing it with satellites, think Nigeria-Sat and Ghana-Sat. We can do it with cars. After all, many top engineers in Europe, in European and American car companies are from Africa. So we can make our own cars, but it takes political will, political courage, continental coordination, and a paradigm shift from just consuming to creating. The question isn't, can Africa build a car? It's what's stopping us. My name is DJ Bwakali. Thanks for watching. And if you believe the African future is one we must build, not import, then like, share, and subscribe. Let's shift gears. Africa belongs in the driver's seat. Remember, the Pan-African sun is rising. Nobody in this world and no force on earth can stop it from doing so.